Morning, good afternoon, good evening, even, according to where you're sat right now and where we're joining you from. My name is Louisa Tanner Munson. I work at Feel Good Astrology, and this is my Feel Good conversation with, once again, top star guest, which is Rick Pursell, who is joining me from beautiful Bali. And it is looking like an absolutely gorgeous day there, Rick. How are you? How has your week been since we last spoke?
Very productive, very happy, and very happy to be here on your show again. And it looks like it's beautiful weather where you are. I can see the clouds and the blue sky.
Yeah, actually, what you can see is the green screen. Let me just show you what it looks like
Yes,
without that. This is what we look like without the blue sky. That's
right.
the
I love that green lawn in the back.
it's 7 o'clock over here, and it's still dark, so you can't really see what's going on. And we have entered that time now where the time that we hook up at every week now, we are in darkness when we do the show. So I just wanted to kind of reflect the fact that we're talking about spiritual values, I guess, and
Yes.
ideas and thoughts and things like that. So hence the sky and the clouds. And I'm
And the
starting
top,
to get warm. Get warm. You're probably going to see me with more and more blankets as the season goes on.
right. So, what's the temperature there now today, this
I've
morning?
no
That is.
idea. But it was a
Right.
bit cold when I got out of bed about an hour ago.
Mm,
Oh, in England we'd have the heating on, but we don't have.
right.
We have like standalone heaters, so it's a slightly different cultural way of living.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of make do with it. So we're looking at Black Wolf, White Wolf. We're looking at love and fear. I'm guessing fear is the Black Wolf. Is that the reference?
Yes, exactly. And you just led in beautifully. We're talking about light and dark,
Yes,
night
actually,
and
I didn't
day.
realise I was doing that.
It's
But
it's the perfect metaphor for what we'll be talking about today.
yeah, because I mean, we're what 8, 9 hours apart at the moment. Um,
Mm,
mm,
yes.
no, actually
Is
less
it
than that.
9?
Uh, Hang on.
UK is 7.
Oh, we're the same as UK, so it's seven
Okay,
hours apart at the moment.
7
So
hours
yeah, we are
difference.
kind of pretty much in a different time zone, aren't we?
Yes. Well,
So
the good thing is that if the world ends here in Bali, you'll get a heads up 7 hours ahead of it.
is that what you're expecting to happen?
No, not actually, but I'm a big fan of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, and
Yeah.
one of the statements was "So long and thanks for all the fish."
Yeah, I can't quite remember all the specifics. I remember reading it about like 20 years ago, and
Yes,
thinking how awesome it was. Isn't there a number? Isn't there a number that the whole world adds up to or something?
yeah, I think it's 42, if I
40.
remember rightly. Yeah,
Wow.
it's
It's funny, like if we
yes,
were to revisit that, we might actually realize that there's some real truths in that have since come to light.
could well
Um,
be.
as often happens when you review old stuff. So where would you like to start today, Rick?
With a little storytelling, just
Oh,
with a
I
little
love that. Let me
storytelling.
get comfortable.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
So
are you sitting comfortably?
I am actually. Yeah.
Very good. Well, here we go. Some time ago, a Native American, First Nation American lad who was about to go through his rite of passage decided to go and see the chief, the old wise elder that has been around forever, and finds the chief sitting outside his teepee, sucking on his peace pipe, long draws, and calm and peaceful, his weather-beaten face showing all of his life, and long grey hair draped over his shoulders. And he welcomes the boy and invites him to sit and asks him, "What brings you here today?" And the boy said, "Chief, I really need to know about life. I want to know about life. And you're old and you're wise and you've seen so much in your life. Can you tell me about life? Can you give me some wisdom, some tools for my life?" And the chief is flattered somewhat that the boy would ask him, takes a deep puff on his pipe and says, well, inside you, boy, you have two wolves. There's a black wolf, and it is by nature very angry, very disobedient. It snarls. It's very greedy. If there's food around, it will rip into the food and snarl and keep all the others off. It's very selfish. And it's always afraid of somebody, another alpha male coming up and taking its place. So it lives in fear. But it's very disruptive. It's disruptive to itself. It's always sort of self-sabotaging itself with its fear. And it causes a lot of disruption with other people. So that's your black wolf. Oh, God, I think, Chief, I think I have some of that in me. I think I have. Is that bad? And the chief said, well, it's neither good or bad. But here's some good news. You also have a white wolf inside you. And this is just a beautiful tamed pet. You're riding your pinto pony through the woods and it trots behind you. You dismount and bathe in the water and it splashes all around you. You throw sticks for it and it runs endlessly back and forwards, curls up to you around your campfire at night. And if you're feeling a bit sad or lonely, it comes up and puts its chin on your knee and looks up at you. And all of a sudden, all of that pain just disappears. So you have some of that inside you. You have a white wolf inside you. And it's a joy. It's a beautiful pet. And the boy thinks about it for a moment, thinks, Chief, you're right. I do have that inside me. I have both of these wolves inside me. And the chief says, well, son, only one of those wolves survives. Oh, Chief, tell me, which one? Takes a puff on his pipe and says calmly, the one you feed. So if you feed the fear, the wolf, the black wolf, it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you feed the white wolf, it will get stronger and stronger in love. And the boy is just astounded by that. But he said, this mythological story has something missing. It's either or. We're separating these two elements, these two wolves, and one's good and one's bad, and one's angry and one's calm, and one's loving and one's fear. That's not really how nature works. That's not how the universe works. So he said, what do you mean, Chief? What do you mean? Well, the chief said quietly that we must integrate both of these. We must accept both of those in our lives. We don't condone the behavior of the black wolf, but at the same time, we don't ostracize it and push it out. We want to try and tame this. It'll always be black, and it will always be a little bit angry and a little bit disruptive. But if we can use the power of love, the white wolf, to tame this black wolf, bring it down so it's manageable, so that we can both live in harmony, the black and white. The black wolf can be very beneficial if it needs to be in a scrap with other wolves, perhaps. But at the same time, it needs to be more loving, to be more accepted in the community. And let me tell you one last thing about wolves. When we talk about community, is that the alpha male of most herds and most groups of animals and most flocks of birds takes the lead and leads the way. But the alpha male wolf, when they're moving from one place to another as a pack, always goes to the back. Why would he do that? Why, says the boy. Well, because there are older wolves at the front, and there are sick wolves and perhaps lame ones. We need to put those together at the front, and they will make the pace. Not me. I'm strong and vibrant and alive. I would leave them behind, and our pack would be no longer complete. Our community of wolves would be disassembled. So go out there, integrate the love that you have, tame the wolf. Don't try and get rid of it. Don't be annoyed by it. Just see it for what it is. And when you bring these two together, you'll have perfect harmony. And that's one of the major lessons, son, that you will need to know. And now I'm going to go back into my teepee and take a snooze, which is what old elders do.
Absolutely. And they've kind of earned that right, haven't they?
They've earned it. They've earned it.
Oh, it's really nice. I was wondering, like how the little boy was going to think about things, because obviously, as you know, when we're young, we learn that something's bad, we learn that something's good, and we always seem to be trapped in that place of polarity. So I loved that your chief, or your what was his name? Did he have a name?
Chief.
I don't. Chief. Okay.
Chief.
So your
Chief
brought them together, to start loving, the fear and recognizing that it also has its place and integrating it. Because, as I was listening in, my mind was drawn to, I drew myself to the card, the Chariot in the tarot deck. I was just thinking about the black wolf and the white wolf and thinking, wowzers. Yeah. Like in the tarot, there's the story about the chariot, and it's got the two steeds at the front, like really pulling, or lions, if you're thinking about strength. It's really about having these like two forces almost taking us off in different places, and finding that balance and appreciating both styles is definitely the way forward. Since you started talking, we've actually had we've got quite a few people watching, which is unusual.
Lovely.
I think most people watch, after the event. So I'd like to welcome them all, and invite you all to join us in the chat room. Come and introduce yourself. Let us know where you're joining us from, so we can at least appreciate where in the world, like what time it might be where you are. And thank you for it. But yeah, I'd like to know, like, which wolf are you feeding right now? Are you feeding your wolf of love or the fear? And how do you see the wolves playing out right now? Because it's kind of a delicious little game, this, isn't it, Rick? Even when I try to be feeding my white wolf, I'm still very aware of the wolves that are going on around me. So for instance, like if I was to turn on the TV, I'm very aware of the black wolf being definitely, like right now on social media, everyone's going crazy about resources, in terms of fuel crisis and like food crises and this, that, and the other. That's definitely, the narrative is definitely on. In fact, before that happened, my parents asked, have you got enough fuel? Have you got enough food? Because the narrative was already starting to play out in the UK. So yeah, there's a lot of black wolfing going on right now, where people are wanting to grab their resources, and I understand that.
Yes.
So how do you see this playing out right now?
Well, let me define. There's two kinds of fear. Okay, we've got this yin yang balance of white and dark, and day and night, masculine, feminine, love and fear. And we should know that there are two kinds of fear. The first kind is biological, and we really don't want to do anything with that, because it's an instinctive. It's like animals. It's instinctive that there is a threat towards this organism, and that we need to do something.
Yeah.
If there was an earthquake, we wouldn't stay in a building. We would evacuate that out. So
we wouldn't necessarily be stood there going, "Oh, it's all about love." We might be place for people who've got trapped and thinking,
that's
"Oh,
right.
love."
It's all about love. You get clobbered over the head with a beam.
Yeah.
So biological fear is a good thing to have, because it does protect us from danger. However, the other fear is learned, programmed, and conditioned. And we've learned most of that in our childhood, generally
Yeah.
between 0 and 7 years of age.
So most likely from our parents, first of all, our siblings.
Most of it comes from our parents. We inherit what our parents fear. If mum fears snakes, then there's a good chance that we will take on that fear, having never embraced a snake, never been bitten by one, and never even held one around our shoulders. But we're still fearful of them. And, I lived in Australia for years.
Yeah.
Spiders, snakes, and sharks were the three main fear. And if you look at the number of people that perished as a result of those three, you could probably count them on two hands in a
Seriously.
year. Yes. So
I always think about like jellyfish where you are, or like blue-ringed octopus and things like that.
Yes. So we learn these fears, and they are conditioned and they're programmed. We really need to shine the light of critical thinking on these beliefs, because we've reinforced them enough to believe that all sharks are dangerous or spiders can kill you. Well, some spiders do have poisonous venom, yes. Same with snakes. Right? So we need to apply critical thinking and say, okay, well, there's some of these things that can cause harm. Right?
Yeah.
The other ones are harmless. So, yes, if you don't like the spider in the living room, get a piece of paper and gently take it outside. Right?
Yeah.
Rather than think that it's a 2-meter high tarantula that's about to gobble you up. Being silly there, but so
no, it's fine.
coming back to it, there's two types of fear.
I was just going to say, I've got kids that blow things out of proportion. So like we have this tiny, like they'll be reporting this huge spider and it'll be like this big. And right now I'm really teaching them how to move it. But we also have a snake in the back garden of our new house, in the backyard. And we've not, we've just left it in a pile of leaves, hoping that it's made its way out of where we live. But it's like in the corner. And I know at some point I'm going to have to go and just check. It was a tiny, tiny little snake. So I think it will have got away. But because we've just moved, I haven't had time to move it. I hope it's okay.
Yes.
It's like, the fact that I was slightly afraid of it, I haven't attended to it for a few days. So I may not have been as loving with it as I should have been, because if it's stuck somewhere and can't get out, then it might be in trouble. But
yes. Well, we can be loving, fearful, or neutral. So when it comes to removing animals and things that may be a bit of a threat, or you feel uncomfortable with, we don't have to go into abject fear about it, and we don't have to necessarily smother it with love. Just being neutral. This represents no harm whatsoever. But at the same time, it well behoves us to, if there is a snake in the backyard and it's a decent size, maybe go online and find out what type is it. Is it a harmless green grass snake, or is it something that has a bit more potential?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really get long enough to look at it. I tried to memorize what it looked at. I did notice the shape of its head, which looks a bit viperish, which is a bit worrying, but it is really teeny tiny.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I mean, what you're describing there is finding information, isn't it? It's thinking, okay, so I've got this fear. I can choose to go into it, or I can manage it a little bit by finding out from maybe people I trust, or from the internet, which doesn't always tell us, exactly what we need to hear, but so there's an element of working with it. What else might you be doing with the fear if you're trying to work through it?
Well, to recognize that fear will put you into fight or flight or freeze mode. And biologically, the body will be flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Both of these are toxic. And if then we are toxifying the body. Whereas
Yes.
love and happiness and hugs, the brain will send out messages, and we get flooded with endorphins, which are very much health-giving and uplifting for the body. So
Yes. Um,
it's good idea to look at, where am I fear? And our planet is in fear at the moment. The bulk
isn't
of
it
our
just?
population is in fear, and
Yes.
it's not justified.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I really love what you were just saying. As ever, there's always a crossover between what we're saying and what's going on in our life, and there's always quite a few synchronicities. And yesterday, I did a show with lovely Jeff Granville, who I must put you in touch with. Um, he teaches and shares like breathing biohacks, and all of this has come from his hard-won experience of having a very sick, poorly child a long time ago, and him needing to. Well, he saved his son's life through mindfulness. He brought mindfulness into
I
the
do
surgery
remember
room.
that.
Yeah, at a time when his son just couldn't have anesthetic, and he would have died without the procedure. So, he saved his son's life. But he's been teaching me about how we can flood our flood our heart with serotonin, how we can literally change our physiology really, really quickly. Because, like you say, things like fear and pain and trauma and stuff are toxic, and it changes our blood. But
Yes.
you can do the other way. So it's like, you're talking about feeding the black wolf or the white wolf inside us. That could be our blood. Or the blood is the system that the wolves live in, and you've got a choice of how you're going to feed it. Like we always, there's a lot of emphasis, or actually probably not enough emphasis, but there is some emphasis that what we eat is going to change the condition of our blood and our physiology, but not so much a great link about our thoughts and our feelings and how that affects our blood, and obviously how it's going to affect our well-being. Like you're right. Like right now, there seems to be a planetary epidemic, and it's not of what we've been told it is necessarily. I always had the feeling that if we're in a pandemic, I would know thousands of people or hundreds of people, would be deeply, gravely affected. And what we're experiencing just doesn't have that characteristic from my perspective. Obviously, other people might have a different view. But one thing I can unanimously say pretty much across the board is most people I know are showing signs of fear. And if we have been entertaining that in our mind-body system, I'm losing people here. I need to go back to you. What audience? Don't go. But yes, you're right. If you recognize you're being fearful, you are affecting your health in a very, very palpable way. And I also suggest that if you are interested in biohacking your breathing, to watch out to my channel, Louisa Tanner Johnson, on Facebook, because on YouTube, sorry, because I'm going to be posting the breathing biohacks later on this week. So we can turn it around quite physically, like we can cause an emotional and breathing stop, so we stop doing those toxic things. But I believe you're going to be sharing how we can do that using our belief systems and our will to stop it.
Yes.
Sorry, right, back to
No,
you.
no, it's very valid what you're saying. Exactly. Our thoughts become our reality. Thoughts become things.
Yes.
So by being the silent witness to our thoughts, watching our thoughts, watching the quality of them, if we have a negative, fearful thought, and it's usually a projection into the future, which implies that we're not being present, we're not being mindful in this moment. We're creating a story in the future that hasn't happened and may never happen. It's the old what if scenario. So the moment we are become aware of having these negative thoughts or these fearful thoughts, and they're a projection into the future, which hasn't come yet, hasn't arrived. So the best thing to do is take that thought and then take the next best one and the next best one and the next best one. We can walk our way out of that. And just as we can do the opposite, we can take the worst thought and take the next worst one and the next worst one and walk our way into depression. So we do have control over this. And every one of us has the ability to control and monitor the quality of our thoughts.
Mm.
So if we want a healthy body and a healthy mind and healthy emotions, we've got to master the mind by just becoming conscious of the quality of the thoughts and choosing the more uplifting ones, the more life-enhancing ones. And the fastest way I know of doing that is through gratitude and appreciation. So if we find ourselves in a fearful spot, we just start writing down or saying aloud to yourself, what do I appreciate about this situation at the moment? What am I grateful for in my life? Right? And then if we diligently sincerely do it, within 10 to 15 seconds after naming a handful of things that we can be grateful and appreciative about, that dissipates the fear. Because what we've done is we've transcended, the ego is all about fear, and we've gone beyond that. We haven't stifled it. We haven't ignored it, denied it, trying to stomp it down. We've gone beyond fear to that place of love. And gratitude is an act of love. So that's probably the most powerful tool that as I've used in my life. And I know many other, I know you use it, Louisa.
Funnily
So
enough, I mean, you don't need anything to be in a place of gratitude, do you? You know, you don't like need a book or a pen or anything like that. But I still also do the exercise that you were telling me about 11 years ago, where you receive money from the universe and you write down how you spend it each day, and each day that amount doubles, and you have to spend that money. And it like when you, I mean, that's another way that I sometimes use to control my outcome. You know, when I'm really feeling a little bit like my resources might be a bit low or I feel out of choices, because very quickly, once you feel like the situation you're in is changing and is more beneficial to you, that also quietens down the fear. You start living in a mindset of possibility. So I really love your idea of you know, of seeing what am I grateful for. I remember traveling up to your place one day when we were doing those sessions, and it was quite early in the morning. I was on my moped and I had like about a 40-minute journey, would you say? Probably 35-minute journey.
It was then, yes.
Yeah, it isn't now, is it? It's like 35 hours or something. Not that much, but a lot a much bigger journey. And so I was on my moped driving my way up. Oh, I've got a fly on the on the camera. And yeah, we had lots of flies as well. And whilst I was doing it, I was literally blessing everything that I passed en route. And by the time I arrived at your place, I just felt like I was walking on air. It was fantastic. So yeah, so gratitude is definitely something else that you said, you know, about like making the next best decision. If I'm not sure, because like sometimes when we're in a place of fear, sometimes it's not that easy to see which one is the next best decision. And in those moments, I always say, you know, if I can't make up my mind, I say, okay, which of these decisions makes me feel better? Which of these do I feel most positive about? Which of these will bring me a quicker resolution? Because I always think once you're moving, and I think I might have learned this from you, and it's been reinforced by my husband as well, because I think there's a sort of spiritual practicality that you two share. But yeah, like once you're moving in a direction, even if you're going in the wrong direction, once you're moving, it's much easier to change direction and to reroute. But if you're actually stationary, it becomes much harder to get moving in any direction. And so, you know, the other thing is always be moving in a way that feels better, feels the gratitude, because it takes you on that white wolf path, I guess.
It does. And you're right about stuckness. Any element that is stuck in our life is, we are energetic beings. The body is made of energy. Everything is energy. And energy is in constant motion. The atoms and the subatomic particles, they're all moving. Everything's in motion. And our planet is spinning, unless you're a flat earther. And then It might be spinning another way, but we won't go
And other
there.
things spinning around you, you're the center of your universe.
Yes, yeah. And so everything's in motion. And the moment we become stuck,
Yeah.
like freeze, fight, flight, or freeze, it's
Yes.
indicative that with no motion, we're not creating anything. We're not creating a solution to the problem. We're not resolving anything. We're just static. So sometimes we might just move away. Right? If you're on a track in Arizona and a rattlesnake is on the path in front of you, it would
Yeah.
be strongly advisable to walk around it and leave it be, right?
Yes.
Rather than just sit there and wait for it to move,
Yeah.
which it might not
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
So go into motion. And then if you can be in nature, if there's a possibility of just going for a walk or doing some stretching or anything where you put movement in the body is then translated into movement of energy. And then that leaves that field open to other possibilities.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's a really great point. So, I mean, what's coming out from this and from my sort of experience of yesterday is like breath work, using Jeff's biohacking. Like we can biohack the sort of fearful toxins out of our bloodstream, you know, and fill it with the good possible the good possibility of divinity into our bloodstream. We can think it through gratitude, through taking the next best step, through deciding to keep moving in the direction that feels the most authentic to us. And then like you're giving us now the physical, so like you've got breathing, which is physical, but you know we're doing it all the time. But the actual conscious movement that you're talking about, the stretching, I always do feel very relaxed after a good stretch. And in fact, as a child, I instinctively knew that. I would always stretch. I find, I'm doing it now, and it instantly is relaxing because it helped me yawn. But I notice with children, if they're feeling frustrated, and animals, in fact, dogs are very good at this. They
Very.
don't they don't hesitate. Like they'll shake it all off, won't they? And in fact, when I was in Bali, not far from you, I met quite a few people who stayed at the ashram. There's an ashram where people go to shake, and they
Yes.
literally shake off all their fear, all their upset, all their trauma. They can shake for hours, days, possibly weeks.
Yes.
But they all come out looking very glowy
Yes. Yes.
from all that shaking.
And laughter is often integrated into that as a meditation. And then you've got the twirling dervishes. That's an extraordinarily powerful spiritual journey, just to spin. So movement is so important. And in ways, taking it and sort of a step further, we do what we can to resolve situations in relationships, whether it's an intimate relationship or work or neighbors or whatever it is. And if for some reason there's no willingness or there's no resolution to that, then often we're obliged to move away. We might leave a job and go to something that's more resonating, or even move out of a relationship, move out of a house, move out of whatever. So movement is so important to our lives. It's stuckness is a sign that we're there's less life in us. We're more lifeless, like the couch potato.
Yes.
So we just need to bring about life and energy into this organism, and that will be uplifting in itself, which will help to uplift our thoughts and our emotions that we carry around. The three bodies. We have four or more, but the physical, the mental, and emotional bodies all can contain toxins. So to be the master over these bodies, we need to detox them. We know how to detox the body. We also need to detox the mind and the low tone emotions of blame, shame, and regret and fear.
Yes. I love what you've just shared with us, or I say us, me, because I'm the one. No one's joining us in the chat room, and that's fine, because in fact this feels more like an intimate conversation between you and I. But I very recently, as you know, moved out of a situation that wasn't serving my husband and I or our whole family, and within it there was definitely an element of stuckness. There's nowhere we could really go with it. And one thing that has always struck me, seeing as I love nature, and I know you love nature as well, is when I'm looking at plants, when they're supple and they're moving and they're sort of flexible, they're changing, they're going through their life cycle. You know that they're alive. Wow, it's got really noisy in your. It's so nice. You've got the sound of the wind.
That's the bamboo and the chimes blowing.
It's beautiful. But I noticed that, as plants get to the end of their life cycle, they become more and more brittle, and they dry out and they desiccate, and then they stop moving. And that's just the sort of, like, they are part of the life cycle, but they are going through the decaying and dying and yielding. Like, although they don't look very yieldy because they're rigid, at some point that structure gives way completely in death. And it decomposes and gives birth to some new possibility again. And it's a beautiful, beautiful way of looking at it. But we often don't look at it in terms of humans. And, so lots of us are becoming like these desiccated, dried up old humans with no suppleness. Like, I see lots of people and admire lots of people who are older than me. And I look at them and think, are you an elder I'd like to be like? Is this how I want to age? And I see some people who look really kind of plumped, with life, like you can see life in them, and you can see like water in them. You can see, like, I don't know, there's a sense of ripeness, really, really beautiful. And then you see some people who look really dried, and it just looks, there's a really strong difference. And I can really see that our own internal thinking about it is a real big determinant of it, because the people who look kind of plumped and full and what's the word I'm looking for? Effulgent, I think, like absolutely at the top of its game. They're the ones who are positive. They're the ones who see in terms of possibility. And that is my roadmap, actually. I'm not wanting to get to the end of my life. I still see myself on the journey, but it's a really clear marker of which direction I'm going in.
Yes. Well, that's a universal law, is start, change, and stop.
Yeah.
So for humans, it's birth, growth, and death.
Yeah.
And it's all energy. We are energy beings, so it's only the body that stops breathing.
Yes.
That which is animating these bodies doesn't follow that law. It's so. The quality of one's life is what I measure. What is the quality of this conversation, this book, this meal, this place? I'm always seeking the highest quality, not in terms of monetary value, but how does it make me feel inside? Yeah. Does it make me come alive?
Yes.
Does it make me feel connected to nature and to people? Is it exhibiting love and all of those beautiful feelings that you get through a good connection? And a connection is really a flow of energy outwards and receiving a flow of energy back. So looking at my measure of the quality of life, I discard or move away from the lower quality thoughts and emotions and deal with those so that they're no longer present, and look at preserving this body so that the quality of my life remains. I mean, I don't want to be 120 years of old age and be a burden to everybody and being pushed around, miserable old sod being pushed around in a wheelchair. That is not quality of life.
No, there's no joy there at all. And you're right. Like, if the people around you aren't enjoying your presence, there's no quality of life for them either, is there?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I somehow don't think that's going to be your reality.
No, but I am a strong advocate of euthanasia.
Uh-huh.
I think we should be allowed to die with dignity.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's a person's will and they're have control of all of their faculties and
Yeah.
have made a will to pull the plug and don't sustain this life where there is little or no life present, movement, the quality of the life is dependent on dependency. And I've made it very clear that I don't want my life to be sustained artificially. I want to be able to go with dignity and honor and with a big bang. Wow, what a ride that was. Bring on the next one.
Yes.
No
Yes.
regrets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that ties into things like suicide, doesn't it? And also like DNRs, like the do not resuscitate orders that
Yes.
were ordered in swathes across the world in the last 18 months. What are your feelings around that? Because, I mean, my feeling in what you were talking about, like euthanasia, to me, that sounded like that was coming from a place of love, opportunity, possibility. And it was coming from a place of not coming from a place of fear. So by default, must be coming from compassion or love. What are your other thoughts about like the ending of life?
Well, you know my story. I had my own gun in the Vietnam War, my own gun against my forehead, pressing the first pressure of the trigger, about to blow my brains out. And I obviously don't have a hole in my head, and I never went through with that. And now it's not an option. It's for me, I believe that the universe will give us our challenges relative to what we can actually deal. If we will stand up and step into the challenge instead of running away from it or avoiding it, if we can turn and face it in its infancy, it looks like the universe gives us just what we can deal with. If we try to avoid it and run away, it seems to come back with more and more severity. But still, it's a challenge and it's a lesson. And I think that it's been said that if you believe in reincarnation, that you come back, but that lesson is much more in your face. It can't be avoided. Now, I don't know that. I can't speak from any authority on that, but it seems to make sense because in our living life, we know that if we have a challenge, a ruin in our life, it keeps repeating itself in relationships, in our life. The same lesson keeps repeating it until we face it and deal with it, and then it's gone. So I think this is why we need to become more conscious and be aware that, wow, there's a challenge coming. Bring it on. Let's see what you've got. Instead, we tend to get distracted. We run away out of fear. And suicide now for me I won't say it's cowardly. It's when you're at the end of the rope and you can't see any way out. There doesn't appear to be any options. And it's a state of profound helplessness, and usually associated with pain and suffering. And I'm also reminded that big beings attract big challenges. So if we've got a big challenge ahead of us, then this is like the universe is metering out. This is just above your comfort level. Right? Deal with it then. So I don't subscribe to suicide. I have coached one person who suicided. I hadn't been coaching him for quite a few months, and he was going somewhere elsewhere. But he'd been on very, very heavy psychiatric drugs and could not get off them.
Yeah.
And decided he couldn't go on this treadmill any longer and decided to end his life. And I will make it very clear to people that come to me in that condition, I will only coach you for life. I'm not going to coach you to end your life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a bit of a morbid subject, but
yeah, sorry.
It's also a part of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Life and death.
Yes, I guess like if we're looking at the black wolf, white wolf, like fear versus love, you know, we're talking life and death as well. And it is all part of this continuous cycle. It's interesting. And thank you for sharing so fully on that. I know more people in this time frame that have or know more of people who've suicided than I have of actual people who died of something that didn't already have you know, comorbidities. So you know, there is something definitely very big going on at the moment, and I really appreciate your take on it. Something that you said in in what you were talking about, that like when you run away from a pattern, it often comes up again. And I always think of it in the terms of wherever you go, there you are. You know, like I mean, you must see that quite a lot, being in your beautiful country of Bali, because lots of people go there on a retreat, as in fact I did, you know, 11 years ago. I needed to get out. And so you see a lot of people escape, don't you?
Yes. Yes.
And some people stay, some people don't. Some people like me stay for a bit longer than, you know, just a holiday. Now, one thing that I was really conscious of, and I've been thinking it through, like, have I actually changed my response here? Like in the change that my family recently went on when we realized that we didn't want to live with the person that we were living with. As we were leaving, the parting shot was, you're only going to experience the same thing again. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Let's have a think around that. You know, like if you go, you're going to experience the same thing again. And I was actually thinking, and it took me a while, because funnily enough, the move before, even though we'd been very happy there, we had somebody who was living in the same place as us, who definitely exhibited a lot of gaslighting and sort of like narcissistic tendencies. And we'd all noticed that our energy had just like started to plummet, you know, around the energy of this person that we were living with. And I thought, crikey, we're about to do that again. And then what really came out was, actually, we're not running away now. Like the first time we were really keen to get out as soon as possible, but actually this time we're very conscious about it, thinking, we know why we're leaving now. We know, you know, I don't know, there's something about the situation that we will learn, you know, so that we don't have to repeat this again. I think previously we left thinking it was never going to happen again, but hadn't really processed the lesson of it. And this time around, we've really thought, okay, what was ours in that? You know, what were we doing to contribute to that? What checks should we have had in place before we moved in? What things should we have been asking? And with me in particular, something I've learned is, if something doesn't feel right, it's probably because it's not right. And I need to, you know, my feelings are a really good barometer of what's going on. And I was, I felt like a bit ashamed out of following my feelings, you know, like, oh, well, if you're feeling that, you're not part of us, and things, you know, like sayings like that. And I think if I hear something like that in future, I'm going to recognize it for what it is. And so is that how you break the cycles, you know, like, so that, you know, like when you leave a situation, you know that it may come up again, but you'll recognize it instantly. Like, what would you recommend for people who are ending a painful cycle, who don't really want to repeat it, don't want to find themselves back to where they were? How would you go about that?
To an iceberg, if you can imagine.
Yep.
I just clicked on something there.
I can still see you.
Okay, good.
And hear you.
Here's the iceberg. We just see the tip of it, but we know there's a lot more underneath.
Yes.
So what happens, very rarely will we get the full lesson just thrown at us. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So we get a dribble of it, and we deal with that and think, oh, good, got rid of that.
Yes.
And it might be some time or not, that if we think about we're coming up the spiral to becoming more conscious, as we come round again, oh, I thought I dealt with that. No, you had taken a little bit off the iceberg, so it disappeared temporarily, but then it's come up again. And then we'll deal with it at that level, and an acceptable level that we can deal with it. And of course, they would take the top off, and gradually this whole thing will come to the surface. We're slicing it off with every deal that we do, and eventually it will go away. So because we don't know what's in the future, we don't know if that lesson is complete.
Yes.
We can have a pretty good idea, a sense of it. So there may be still more to do on that. But each time that you're taking the top off that iceberg, you're reducing the bulk of it, the pain of it, the trauma of it. And then sometimes it just blows out the water. You just have a situation that blows it out the water. And that situation is responsibility in my eyes. We take full responsibility for our role in the situation. And I've taken mine back to my role in situations in the past, in past lives that I have no idea about, but just decided to take full responsibility for any harm that I might have created throughout lifetimes after lifetime. And now put you in the causal seat instead of the effect.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is just on your situation personally, the passing remark may have been a projection from that person.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with you. It could have just been like I've not got my stuff fixed up. And I've been trying for so many years, so you're going to carry yours around. That's not necessarily the case. So it could have just been a projection, a somewhat one with perhaps nefarious intent or designed to cause some harm for you, but obviously it hasn't.
No, and we just thought, that's a bit strange. Wow, where did that come from? Okay. It felt like, when I heard it, it just sounded like hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That was her. So that was her pain being projected.
Yeah. I really love your iceberg description, how it goes around, and so when you were like swirling your hands around, I noticed that you were talking about like spiraling up. And obviously we can spiral down as well, but if you were spiraling up whilst also shaving off around the outside, what occurred to me is that you're actually kind of almost creating like a point. And I know that you have your lovely shop, and there are probably these focusing crystals, all these like wands that sort of like tail off in a point. And so what I was seeing in your analogy, that yes, like everything gets shaved off, but to me it looked like as you're doing that shaving and moving up, you're moving to a point of singularity.
That's a nice analogy.
I just thought I'd share with you. As you're going round and round and round and up and up and up.
Yes. Yeah.
Presumably it's getting more focused, a bit like a Harry Potter wand. Expelliarmus. You know exactly where you're going. And blowing, and like you're saying, blowing stuff out the water. It clears a path, presumably.
Yeah. I think that we have come from a highly evolved state, right? This is a long time ago. So the circles of this spiral, we jumped up. We needed to, in order to play the game in this dualistic world, we needed to not know. We need to go from knowing to not know, so that we had a game. So what we've done is we've been playing this game, and we've taken on human form, and we've become more materialistic and consumer and more solid, so that the energy is more solidified. Now at some stage we said, I don't want to go down this track anymore. I want to be more aware. I want to be more conscious. I want to more richly rewarding life. So we arrest the decline, and that could be any addiction that we've decided I'm done on this, and then we start coming back up the spiral.
Yeah.
So in doing so, that's when we come across the iceberg, and we think, oh, I thought I'd fix that, and we just skim a bit more off the top, and it might be 2 weeks, it might be 2 years. Oh, I thought I dealt with that. But all it's done is it's just popped up to the surface. We keep doing that inner work. Eventually that will go. And I think we all have one big iceberg that we come into this incarnation with. One big one. I call it a ruin, like a Scottish castle in ruins on the hillside. But I think we all come into with one big iceberg that is our challenge. And once we've overcome that, there might be little smaller ones around, but that one big one that this is the lessons that we came into this incarnation to overcome. This is the challenges. And then we can power ahead if we're willing to do the work.
May I be nosy and ask what your ruin was? I'm saying was. I'm saying
ruin.
I'm saying was. I'm imagining that kind of like destroyed it.
My big ruin in my life was my inability to deal with conflict, which is shared by lots of people. But my story is that I was brought up on a farm in England with two loving pacifist parents. So I never witnessed any conflict. I never saw them fighting. And I thought this was the most exquisite life for a young boy on a farm in England with these beautiful parents. And then we moved to Australia and everything was great. It was adventure, good weather. And at 20, that's when I got drafted into that insane war in Vietnam. So I had no idea how to deal with conflict. And then suddenly I've attracted to myself, there's all the conflict. That was a big one. That was a big one, right? Witnessing man's inhumanity to man. But the gift of that, right? The gift of that, and I just wrote down something. Why do I do what I'm doing, right? Why? The why, not how or what do I do, but the why behind it. And I'll read this to you. Why I do what I do. I experience the insanity and man's inhumanity to man during the Vietnam War. And I don't want my children or anyone to go through that experience. That's my why. That's why I run retreats. That's why I write. It's what I write about. It's everything is driven by that why.
That is perfect. Thank you so much. I'm really glad I asked.
I'm glad you did too.
Because that was beautifully articulated. You have been really busy, haven't you? Like launching, doing lots of things, and
lunching.
And lunching, yeah. Oh, yeah. 'Cause you've just had lunch, haven't you?
Yes.
I'll be having breakfast soon. May I share, with your permission, your latest video? Is that a fitting way for us to leave this session today, do you think?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
I say leave it, but I'll probably want to just thank you for it after, if that's okay. Are you happy to stay on while I put it on?
Absolutely.
I'm going to take us out of the screen while I add this video to the screen. Hang on one second. So there it is. Let's take us out. And let me get rid of my branding, because that's kind of in the way. Let's make that full screen. There we go. Right, let's get started.
Good.
Great mythologists said, move from your head, the hero's journey from the head to the heart, because the heart is the portal to the infinite. I don't work, I express my passion. Did you see the butterfly?
Yes.
This is the metamorphosis. We create our reality through our thoughts. and the heart's never broken. Where's the money? Consumerism, materialism, comfort, distractions. So the more money I have, the more I give away. Love, exactly. Add more quality to your life and forget the quantity. But it's important to remove ourselves from the distractions. We know when we are being distracted. We know.
I would imagine that we need more examples, more teachers, that kind of thing. What are your views on that?
I think teachers come in handy, but there is a guru that lies within you that is infinite. We don't need teachers, we need to connect to what is already there. We need more authenticity, we need more heart-centered, we need different behaviors. And the way to get that is to find the root cause of the aberrated behaviors, the unintelligent behaviors, the unwise behaviors.
And each individual have to do that.
It starts with us. This is what Gandhi meant when he said, be the change you wish to see in the world. He didn't say do it. He didn't say have it. He said just be it. So if we're being violent like a football hooligan, we're going to go to a football match, Manchester United versus Chelsea, and we're not going to watch the football, we're going there to incite violence. So we'll have violent thoughts, violent words, violent actions. What our world needs now is more peace, more harmony, more unity, more transparency, more connectedness, more love.
For a lot of individuals that's disconnected from this, what are some of the steps that you could, that's not so cumbersome, that they can actually start to introduce, into their life to get to a point where they can actually recognize that going within, that's the ultimate prize?
Good question. I only believe in practical solutions. I don't go into woo-woo land, right? I can. The major catalyst is getting out of we have a beautiful mind. We also have an ego mind, which is all steeped in fear and separateness. And it drives, that's the driver of us being separate from each other and separate from our authenticity, who we are at the core. Recognize that that's what is coming from the ego, it's fear-based, choosing love. And how do you choose love? You get out of your head and into your heart. So just put all your attention on your heart, on the heart center. And when I say heart, I don't mean just the pump, but the energetic chakra, the heart chakra, that combination of those two. Osho said, human beings have got it wrong. We've made the mind, the head, the master, and the heart the servant. And we need to vault these to make the heart the master and the mind the servant. So be guided by the heart. Heart, show me the way. Heart, give me a sign. And then watch nature, because nature is a reflection there.
And that can be done simultaneously.
Absolutely. And the heart's never broken. The mind is broken. You can't break this heart. It's unbreakable. Despite all of the love songs and Unbreak My Heart, I can't remember who sang that, but it's not true. The heart remains intact. It is a portal of unconditional love.
Hello. Thank you so much for that. That was amazing. Let me just take that out of the I got a bit confused at the end, putting us in and out of the stream. Let's just remove that was amazing. I love the fact that at the end of that video you can actually see, what else is going on. That's great that we can just click on and connect to. And so if anyone's watching this, if you go to the funding, which is that your channel?
No, it's not. It's a channel that I'm supporting, and these guys are doing some amazing work in helping Balinese people, entrepreneurs, getting micro loans and things like that. And they were all here last weekend, so we had a long weekend of beautiful communication. But
Fantastic.
Doing an amazing job.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. Well, I loved that. One of the things I loved the most was, how earlier in the show today I said, that you and my husband, I think you're both sort of like spiritually practical, or take, that you're practical with your spirituality. And in that, you actually declared that you take practical action. And I was like, oh, yes, thank you. and my other big takeaway, which of course I know, but I always forget, and it's almost useful to have it as a mantra, and that is, about that we need to make the heart the master and the mind the servant. And of course, that just really reminds me of your heart mastery course. Is that where that came from?
Exactly.
All of a sudden, all the pennies dropped. It all just made complete sense to me. That was perfect.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It was lovely to see you, in your home as well. Your beautiful home, that place of paradise. If people were interested in visiting you for a retreat on your home, in your home, where can they go to, Rick?
rickpursell.com. But just recognize that Bali's border is not open at the moment, and we're not running retreats. I'm doing life and spiritual coaching, and always open to dialogue. So hopefully as soon as the borders start opening up, we'll be back in business again.
Of course. Yeah, and I've just put your websites back up there, because it's called Heaven in Bali, isn't it? Heaven in Bali, is that right?
Yes, that's the retreat center. heaveninbali.com.
Excellent. So I think we've kind of really explored the black wolf, the white wolf, and how we can integrate it, and lots of different techniques. Is there any last lingering thing that you want to just come out with before we go, or share before we go?
Well, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Fear and love are present in our life. Choose love.
Yeah,
that's it. Simple. Choose
fantastic
love in every moment, every thought, every word, every action.
Excellent.
And
thank you so much.
I want to express my love to you for having me on the show weekly, except when you're moving. And the work that you and Carl are doing, and raising your kids consciously. I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. And thank you for making yourself available, because I just know how busy you are. Like you're always doing something really that is very poignant and is making a difference. And I really see that in you. So I really appreciate that in you as well. So thank you very much. Wherever you've been watching in the world, whether you've been watching us live or tuning in after the event, we love you. We love it that you're joining us, and we invite you to do so again. Anyway, enough from us. I'm going to cut you all free. Have a beautiful day and a week ahead, and we'll catch up with you very soon.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.